10 months ago, Russia invaded Ukraine, and I learned that in my bed in St. Petersburg city early in the morning. Since that time, we went through massive protests where people were getting jailed for calling the war, to a new reality where our propagandists call it the People's War instead of the special military operation what they did in the very beginning.
Это война. До кого не дошло, пожалуйста, свыкнитесь с этим.
What a shift in the viewpoint. This year, such shifts in Russian rhetoric is pretty common. I've already recorded a video about what Russian state media tell us about Ukraine a while ago. And in today's video, we're gonna do basically the same thing. We're gonna see what does Russian state media tell us about the war in Ukraine. We are going to watch a few Russian news channels, and I'll also share a bit of my personal perception of what is being discussed in Russian web related to Ukraine. There are some interesting changes since I left Russia like 3 months ago, and I'm doing this video with a goal to keep some kinda connection between people in Russia and the world, or at least give you some basic understanding of what do average Russian people see in their news. Also wanna say big thanks to Masterworks for sponsoring this video, more about them later, and now let's get into ridiculous world of Russian propaganda. So yeah, I decided to start my morning with a good portion of Russian news. I have my laptop with a few pages opened, one of the largest Russian TV channels, the largest newspaper, and RuTube. That's like YouTube, but RuTube. I never watched anything on Russian YouTube before, but I guess the time has come. So yeah, let me watch this, and then I'm gonna share you the most juicy parts. So, what key ideas I understood after watching all this stuff? First of all, one of the biggest shifts in the rhetorics of Russian media is that many Russian media still call it special military operation, and on official level we hear from Mr. Putin, from Mr. Peskov and from other politicians that it is a special military operation.
И я хочу это подчеркнуть. Все, что происходит, и все, что связано со специальной военной операцией, мера абсолютно вынужденная, необходимая.
But what we hear from TV and from various programs is people is our state propagandists. That's difficult to pronounce this word. So they often refer to the war of Ukraine as the war, and some people even started calling it the People's War and even the religious war.
Идет религиозная война. А мы это осознали?
So yeah, I feel like when Russia was advancing in Ukraine in the very beginning, they called it a special military operation and didn't like to see people calling it war at all. And right now, when Russia is kind of failing at this operation, they started to seek more for people's support, basically referring to their feelings of patriotism and also some religious feelings. And that is my second takeaway after watching that bunch of Russian news. Our propaganda tries hard and appeals to people's patriotism and religion. What I see in Russian news right now, and basically what I observed globally this year, is something completely unimaginable for 1 year ago me, in a bad way. Russian invasion made things extremely hard for people in Russia, for people in Ukraine, and basically for people around the world. It also turned my life 180 and made me learn things, again something unimaginable for 1 year ago me. And I'm still figuring out things about the financial side of living in my country and basically being a Russia abroad. It's still full of surprises to me. I had to learn about crypto, about opening banks in foreign countries, about paying taxes, about receiving my YouTube revenue and money from sponsors, etc, etc. And there's still one thing that I am figuring out right now: how to grow my wealth in a long run. Before we continue, I want to tell you about today's video sponsor, Masterworks, a platform for investing in fine arts, literally in physical paintings from legends like Picasso or Banksy. I learned about them about a year ago and I was like, wow, that's a cool concept. Once my channel grew, I received an email from Masterworks about a shoutout. That was exactly the time when I was figuring things out about investing stuff, and that was super relevant to me. And I thought that might be relevant to you as well, especially taking into account how 2022 made things hard for people around the world trying to grow their wealth. And please, this is not a financial advice, and I want to make this integration educational, so you learn about the platform and do your own research before making any investments. Masterworks isn't crypto or NFTs, they are physical paintings worth millions. Masterwork buys this art and qualifies it with the SEC, splitting it into shares for investors. Now, if Masterworks sells your painting for a profit, it means profit for your pocket as well. They have sold 9 paintings to date, with the last 3 returning over 13, 17 and 21% net to their investors. This investing option has its own pros and cons, so please do your research responsibly. And if you find it a good fit for you, you can get priority access with the link below. Now, coming back to Russian propaganda. I've seen multiple episodes of Russian officials talking to mothers whose sons were basically sent to fight in Ukraine, calling their sons heroes for fighting as true patriots, and even Mr. Putin himself had meeting with wives and mothers of mobilized Russians.
И то, что ваши ребята, большинство из них выбрали такую судьбу, как служение Отечеству, защиту Отечества, защиту Родины, России, защиту наших людей, в данном случае в Новороссии, на Донбассе, это тоже результат вашей работы.
You know, it's entirely up to you to believe if these wives and mothers were real and not fake at all. And as for appeals to religion, listen to what Russia's largest federal Orthodox TV channel has to say about the war in Ukraine and Russian politicians.
Апостол Павел говорит, что наши начальники народные при поясе носят меч. То есть они имеют право на то, чтобы карать, пресекать земные судьбы и давать возможность человеку осознать даже через такое страшное событие, как лишение жизни. Многие либералы сейчас скажут «нет».
And the third key takeaway remains the same as the last time. Our government, our state media is still pushing the idea that everything is the Ukraine's and the West's fault, like the war is still going on because they don't do any steps in making things more peaceful, and rather escalating the conflict. Like the recent visit of Mr. Zelensky to Washington, Russian media clearly point that this event is a sign of the war escalation. At the same time, they also trying to make a laugh at Mr. Zelensky. Wrinkled trousers and lack of a suit. This image was chosen by the president of Ukraine Vladimir Zelensky for his mini visit to the United States, all in order to look special in contrast with the immaculately dressed presidential couple of Bidens. I don't know if you would agree with me, but when I hear that much sarcasm and tasteless jokes in the news report, I'm getting highly skeptical about other news I'm seeing there. Here's just one of the moments for you. Zelensky brought a yellow-blue flag with some doodles to American lawmakers. He assured that the flag is straight from the front lines. In response, he received a brand new US flag and a clumsy kiss attempt from Nancy Pelosi, who first missed and kissed the hand of the Ukrainian president and then rubbed against his unshaven face. Now let's do the newspapers. If I were in Russia right now, I would head to our subway and get a real newspaper just like thousands of people daily, but let's do online news instead. I have RIA Novosti or RIA News opened, and that's one of the largest Russian online media controlled by a Russia Today media group that is fully controlled by a Russian government. Russia Today channel that you might be familiar with is one of their media as well. So tens of millions people visit this website monthly, and that's what they can read there. One article genuinely attracted my attention here. The masks are off, what this year gave Russia. And according to this article, 2022 gave Russia the historic reunion that's talking about four annexed regions of Ukraine. New world and different rules, that's talking about multipolar world and closer cooperation with Asian countries. They also wrote about the successes of Russian economic under the Western sanctions, about the heroes' time and soldiers who voluntarily fought in Ukraine. And lastly in the article, they make fun of people who decided to leave Russia and praise people who support the mad events of 2022. Overall, what a great overview of the passing year with one missing major detail – objectivity. You know, I can imagine that somebody is reading this having a morning cup of coffee, finish the article with "This year just proved that it's impossible to cancel Russia and great Russian culture," and thinks, what a great country I'm living in. And then remembers like, yeah, my country acquired 4 new regions this year, at what cost, and why wouldn't they just improve the life at existing regions? Yes, our economic resisted all the sanctions from the West, but now I cannot afford many things that I get used to get before. You know, I'm actually gonna do the 2022 overview of what this year gave Russians, or I'd rather say what this year took from all of us. And for now, let's move to the final part of this video, to RooTube and people's comments. I think the most liked comments might give some understanding of what people generally think about stuff. You know, I was scrolling YouTube and trying to find like some of the most popular videos on the platform and tried to find like any comments out there, but looks like RootTube is not a place where we can find something interesting. Their platform literally doesn't have a public view count, the search engine is simply terrible, and I barely can find any videos that are watched by a big audience. Most of videos have 0 to 10 comments, and I found only one channel that frequently uploads about situation in Russia and Ukraine and where people actually watching and commenting stuff. Like a typical video gets there about 1 to 200 comments, and these kind of comments are usually most liked ones.
Everything is going to be fine. Russia will win. Thanks God we see some action. Having such positive news by the end of this year, it can make smaller the disgusting feeling after surrendering Kherson. I suggest our entire country work one day in favor of this special operation. Anyone agrees?
Well, I really thought that I would find more stuff to show for you, but anyways, I hope you found this interesting to hear from me. If you made it this long to this video, I really want to appreciate your attention and support. You know, I'm able to do this YouTube thing simply because you are watching my videos. I want to wish you a better year in 2023 and wish you a Merry Christmas. And maybe talk to you soon. This Sunday we're gonna have a Christmas live stream, so come by, say hi, спасибо, and пока.